Nizzy, great outcome for the club. You know, the alignment now, are you happy with that and the way it's all come together?
Yeah, we're really pleased with it, Pete. It's taken a long time. Obviously, we needed to make sure we got things right, and we think the Football Commission have done a pretty good job in trying to get the two clubs, I guess, in partnership with the two AFL clubs, so that you've got a willing partner rather than a partner that says, look, we'll do it, but we're not really that keen. And that's happened in the past, and that's why they've probably fallen over.
Did East Perth come to you, or did you go to East Perth?
Well, East Perth actually went to the Commission, and I think Peel did the same to find out whether this could possibly work, because at one stage 6 months ago, or probably even 3 months ago, we didn't know whether this would come off, and we're very pleased that it has.
The appointment of Brian Dawson obviously suits you with the history there. Did you have any involvement in his appointment at East Perth? No,
that was done by Brodie Howson at East Perth, and Brodie asked before the appointment whether we would have any issue with Brian if they went along those lines, and I said certainly not. Brian's been a consultant with us for a number of years, still is, has been with us since 1988. So it's been a long journey for Dorse with our club, but certainly when he was coaching at Swan Districts, he was still a consultant with our club with his physiology background.
Your preferred model was to have the standalone team. Will you reopen that in 5 years' time once this contract?
I hope not. I hope it's going to be in place forever and a day, and I think this looks like a sustainable model, a model that can help the other clubs, and I think the injection of funds into the competition initially will be the catalyst to help the other clubs, and I think the next step is then to ensure that the pool of players for the other 7 clubs who aren't partners get the opportunity to recruit well, and hopefully we'll revitalise the competition again and make sure that we've got a really good, viable competition forever and a day.
The Commission seemed to say that you think you paid overs. Do you agree that maybe you paid a little bit more than you wanted to in terms of this deal?
Yeah, well, I guess we think it's a fair sum of money when you think it's $450,000 each per club. But it's going back into football. It's going back into the WAFL, which we think's positive. But it's a good whack of money when you consider that we're already paying a substantial amount of money each year. You know, I think our contribution to WA footy last year was about $5.5 million. Fremantle's was $4.5. So there's $10 million going back into the game already, and then there's another $900,000 going forward. It is a contribution. We've got to find the money, so we're going to have to obviously cut costs or raise revenue, and that's difficult. But we're up for the fight. We want to make this work, and we want to make sure that not only the two clubs, the partner clubs, are successful. We want to make sure that the competition's successful, because we're going to be a very big part of it.
Can you guarantee the East Perth fans out there that the jumper will remain the same and that the name of the club will remain the same with no West Coast element to the East Perth Footy Club as the image?
Yeah, it'll stay the same. It'll be East Perth, it'll be East Perth Run, it'll be exactly the same. The difference will be that we'll be providing players to the East Perth Football Club, and Fremantle will be providing players to the Peel Football Club. So it'll mean they won't be recruiting outside of their zones. It'll be standalone teams, of course, from East Perth and Peel's point of view.
In terms of game plans, how you want your players to play, how much control will you have over East Perth?
Well, some we hope. We hope Dorse will go along the lines of what we're trying to achieve here, so that our players play a similar style of play. Albeit, there are obviously going to be the coach will have the final say on how he implements that and implements it through the grades. So it'll still be standalone. The clubs will have an influence from us, but certainly they'll be East Perth and Peel in their own right.
Will you have a Eagles person as a chairman, a selector, or as a overseeing person over Dorse?
Oh, hopefully we'll have one of our assistant coaches or our development coaches who'll work with Dorse in we'll try and do it in 2013, so gearing up for 2014 if we can, because there's a lot of transition things that will need to be done. There's a lot of the detail, I think, that we need to get done so that everyone's comfortable when we hit the road running in 2014 that it works.
Trevor, what makes you confident host clubs can work this time when they didn't about 10 years ago, last time it was tried?
Oh, well, I don't agree with that, Braden. I think they did work, and they certainly worked in East Perth's case. And there were a couple of the clubs that it didn't work at. And I guess it's an acceptance, and I think the thing that the clubs need to accept that it's a partnership as well. East Perth did in the 3 years that they were partners, albeit we didn't have a great influence in those 3 years where not many of our players actually played in the finals that East Perth won. So we didn't have a major influence, but certainly the alignment in those days worked. With South it didn't work, and when we were with Claremont it didn't work, so there are reasons for that, but certainly this time I think that it's taken a long time. It's taken over 20 months to get to this point from the last time we submitted a submission, and now we've got an opportunity going forward to continue to work on the details. So hopefully that answers your question, Braden. I think it can work this time because we're going to get down to the real detail.
How strong do you reckon your team will be?
Initially, I'm not sure, Craig. We may have to build it up. Hopefully we'll be able to retain some of the players at East Perth, which is important, that some of the senior players stay on and provide the seniority around a young group of players who will be playing there initially. And hopefully we'll be able to build that side into a competitive force each year, because obviously we want our players to go out and try and win games. I mean, it's not just a development. Part of the development process is to make sure that they're competitive and they win, and they play to win.
You don't think obviously the fears from other supporters is that, well, the West Coast and Freo are going to dominate the competition, and when our club isn't going to be a chance to win any more premierships? You seem to think it's going to be the opposite. You said it's going to have to build up to be competitive.
Well, it'll take time, I think, but that's only a guess. I don't know how strong the respective sides are going to be even this year. It depends on who they recruit and what they do. But certainly it wasn't the case previously. I don't think Claremont made the finals when we were aligned to them, and I'm sure South missed the finals when Fremantle were aligned to them once before. So it just depends on the quality of senior play you've got at the WAFL club at any particular time.
You have no idea about how you reckon the East Perth players, there's going to be obviously a few who are going to miss out on playing league footy in 2014 who will play this year. How do you think they're going to feel throughout this season as they prepare, thinking, am I going to get a game next year or not?
Well, it's a great challenge for them. I think any player who's worth his salt is up for the challenge. I think a lot of players would take on the challenge to make sure that they're one of the 10 or 12 players who get a game every week. It depends on how many players we've got playing each week and whether their form warrants a game in the seniors or the reserves. So it's going to be a little bit of a juggling act, but I think most guys at WAFL clubs rate themselves pretty highly and are competitive, and that's the nature of the WAFL competition. It's a great comp, and I don't think it'll be diminished one bit.
When the club was aligned to Claremont, what were some of the issues or obstacles that you had to overcome, and what have you learned from that period?
Well, I think we had a lot of really young players, first-year players, rookies and so on, who were aligned to the club, and quite frankly, they probably weren't ready for senior football. And Don Pike was the coach at the time. You couldn't have got anyone more aligned to our club than Don, and he found it really difficult to slot the players in. So there's going to be a lot of work required to make sure that we get that transition right and make sure that the players are developed enough to play senior footy.
How significant is it for the AFL team in general? You said you wanted one for a long time to improve it. What is there a percentage or is there an indication you can give us on how much better it will make your AFL team?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a percentage on it, but there's certainly a great opportunity and a great buzz around our player list to know that they're going to at some stage be playing together. When they go back, they play together, they play similar styles of football, they have the right coaching behind them. They've certainly got an opportunity where they're not going to be playing against each other, which they really loathe. You know, they line up on each other, and on Monday they've got to shake hands and be good best buddies again. It's a tough environment when you're doing that each week in and week out. But I think from this point on, they're going to have a great opportunity to, even when they're dropped or they're coming back from injury, they'll get the same opportunity to play the same system, make sure they're getting the same sort of coaching, and then all of a sudden, if they come back into the senior team, they're going to be ready to go.
So just following on from Craig's question, are you on more of an even battlefield now in terms of the development of your younger players with rival clubs?
Well, not yet, but in 2014 we might be. Yeah, that's what we're aiming at. We're aiming to be on the same, I guess the same level as the Collingwood team, the Geelong team, and the teams we're competing with on a week-to-week basis to make sure we get the best development we can for our players.